So let's take a little trip looking backwards at the history of data visualization. So data visualization has been around for some time. However, it's only really been recent that it's been started to be identified as a discipline. Um, but for the past 250 years, there's really been where a lot of the development has really taken place, and we'll see some examples here shortly. But it's really today that some of the visual forms that we're going to be looking back will come alive today. So the first thing I want to share with you is this line chart created by William Playfair in 1801. So take a moment to look at this chart, and I'm going to point out a few things here in a moment. All right, so a couple things to notice is that right here we have a line that represents the amount of exports that are leaving England and going to Denmark and Norway. And up here we have a yellow line, which is the line of imports coming from Denmark and Norway to England. So this visualization gives us some information about what's happening in England. But also we notice that there is a change right about here, right? And this, I would say, is around 1754, right, is when this occurs. And what's happened is that these lines, by plotting the data visually, we can start to see that England is starting to have more exports than imports when it comes to its commerce from Denmark and Norway. So this is an interesting visualization, not necessarily from a decision-making point of view from the English, or if you're the king and queen of England. But the whole idea is that you can actually see what has happened without having to take a long time and take a look at it. And then also you can start to draw a lot of conclusions. So in this next one, this one's a lot more complicated, but it's quite artful in its drawing. So Napoleon had decided to march on Moscow, and this visualization starts to show from his beginning location that he had an army, which is indicated by the width of this tan line, uh, that was quite large. And as they went on their march, right, you'll notice that the width of this line here starts to narrow. And also there's offshoots, like little trees of this march. So the tan line represents when Napoleon's army was heading towards Moscow. And you can see that the line gets thinner and thinner. By the time that he arrives at Moscow, the amount of his army is about a third to a fourth of what he originated with. Now, from that, you can see here there's actually some numbers if you take a look. It's actually 422,000 troops, and then by the time he got here, it was, I can't tell that number quite well, it looks like about 100,000 troops, so at least a fourth. At that point, his men had died or passed away, or it's the same thing, isn't it? Due to the fact that the temperatures were starting to drop, and it was cold. And so when Napoleon's army started to return, you can see that their numbers got smaller and smaller and smaller. And here we have a chart down below that starts to show the indicators of the temperatures when Napoleon's army was returning. At this point in time, it was -9 degrees. At this point in time, it was -21, and so on and so forth. So when Napoleon's army returned, they were in the amount of 10,000 troops. Now, The cool thing about this graphic is that it tells a very interesting story, and it's placed over a map of some sort. And it kind of gives you some geographic locale with what's happening with Napoleon's troops. Secondarily, it gives you some numerical data, and also it helps you visualize it in scale. So this is a great figure by Charles Joseph Menard, and it's also a great visualization tool. And this was made, well, I'm not too sure. It says, okay, Paris 1869 is when this appears to be created, and I'm getting that from this right here. Paris, 20th of November, yeah, 1969. So it's fascinating, and this is what we want to be able to accomplish with our data visualizations. So this brings up an interesting concept. I want you to take a moment, look at this, and ask yourself, how many times does the digit 7 appear? Okay, so a lot of you may have some different numbers, and I may ask you how you went about answering that specific question. Most of you probably had some strategy where maybe you looked across each row or maybe each column and went around and started circling the sevens that you saw, right? I have a problem personally that I have a tendency to jump around and I might start to miss some sevens, right? Oh, wait, here's one here. So this is the typical way that a person searches for data, right? How long did it take me to go and find all of these sevens? Oh, I'm still missing one, right? So I really don't have a good concrete way of being able to count the number of sevens in this graphic quickly. So I'm going to let you look at this one more time, and I'm going to ask the question, what would you do to this visualization to be able to improve the way that you find the number of sevens that are in this graphic? With that, I'm going to stop here, and we're going to start on the next video, picking it up from that particular question.